domain-specific applications are impacted by AI in three ways. Firstly, the logic which goes into those domain-specific applications can be created by AI techniques, things like machine learning and deep learning. So that logic can be created far more effectively, so more precisely and more quickly than it would have done in the past. The second thing, which is more important, is actually you can start using new data sets, things like speech and text, which can be associated with the logic. So the use of things like natural language processing can be incorporated as part of those applications as well. And finally, the third aspect is that AI can actually dynamically update the logic associated with those applications. So as things change within the application where it's been implemented, they can be dynamically updated to actually remain operationally more efficient over time, opposed to having to rely on an application being updated by the supplier. A centralized AI approach I see as important for two key aspects. Firstly, there is actually a very limited number of data scientists at the moment within the market space, a very scarce resource. So having the ability to consolidate those into one single function, if you like, within an organization makes perfect sense, and having one tool which supports them also makes good sense. And of course, the outputs from that centralized resource need to be very efficiently used as well. So if you create an insight, it's good that that is published and used multiple times by different aspects of the organization. The second aspect of having a centralized resource like this is the ability to actually to look at complete end-to-end processes. Normally, applications can be optimized in their own right, but actually end-to-end processes will go through multiple applications. And stringing all those together and having an optimized end-to-end process, of course, is the goal for the operator. So having a centralized tool which can look at all aspects of a process, multiple different applications, and actually come up with an optimized process is going to be key. And the centralized resource enables that to take place. I think the first challenge is actually getting all the data in a centralized place. Data is all over the place. It has multiple systems, different departments, and possibly different organizations, which needs to be centralized and be usable by that centralized resource. And that's the first stepping stone in getting the centralized intelligence operation underway. The second one is really actually about the staff. You're going to have to retrain staff in their methodologies, the tools which they're using, and how you're going to support that and set up those needs some careful investment. And of course, you've got to go and buy the tools in the first place. And the final aspect of this is actually, having generated this amazing amount of insights, is then actually doing something, acting on that. And that might require the redevelopment of the applications which are already installed, the updating of processes which are underway, and that is an effort. And indeed, that's probably the largest effort in terms of implementation of the whole solution set. I think there are three sort of core benefits. The first one is just accuracy. The ability to be very accurate in terms of the applications that you're dealing with, and more importantly, is end-to-end processes can be optimized, looking at all aspects of that, and that's what a centralized intelligence approach really gives you. The sort of second one, I suppose, is essentially the removal of coding in some situations. So you can go into a no-code or low-coding environment. You're relying on the algorithms essentially within the centralized intelligence approach to do the coding for you. And that really leads to the third advantage, which is really you're making automations. You're making automations of automations. So the generation and development of automations turns into an automatic activity. And over that, you end up with a very much more optimized approach to virtually everything you're going to be able to do. Well, centralized approaches, even though they aren't very mature in themselves, actually use some very mature technologies. Things like machine learning and deep learning technologies have been around for some time. Indeed, how insights get exposed within their libraries and utilized elsewhere around organizations, those sorts of techniques have been established for some numbers of years. Putting all those together in a single package and then exposing those specifically for telecoms, however, is a relatively new technology and approach. So, I suppose it's a combination of, even though the technology is mature, the actual installations and implementations of that technology is still very new. But it's a low-risk situation, I think, if you're being supported by some very large vendors in that approach.